The U.S. just activated a brand new special operations unit dedicated entirely to operating in Africa. They activated it in North Carolina at Fort Bragg without a single African partner in the room and named it after a bird known for mimicking voices to trick locals and steal their food. They didn't even have an African American in the room. It is given very much 1884 Berlin Conference. You know, that time when a whole bunch of white people enter a room and carve out Africa for their benefits. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And today, we need to talk about why this new unit is guaranteed to fail. My name is Wello, and this is Money and Power Africa, where we cut through the noise on African businesses and politics to bring you the real story beyond Africa's biggest move. When you walk the ground in East Africa as an active duty infantry officer, and now you are 100% medically retired, and when you carry the blood and history of West Africa in your veins like me, you read military news very differently. The U.S. Army officially activated Delta Company 7th Psychological Operation Battalion, named Drogo Company, and they fall under the 3rd Special Forces Group that is based in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. So the Pentagon paints this as a modern flexibility for Africa. I see it as an information band-aid hiding a failing foreign policy strategy, one that will actively counter every single goal the U.S. claims it wants to achieve in Africa. Now, let's look at this quote. When we talk about this transformation, I often think about the process of forging steel. This is Captain Schultz expressed during the ceremony. He said, you take raw, untested iron and subject it to immense heat and pressure. It is a disruptive and sometimes uncomfortable process, but it is the only way to align the elements to create a blade strong enough to withstand the rigors of battle. Today, we are adapting to meet the challenge of tomorrow. As a former infantry guy, I get the ceremony speech metaphor. It sounds great in an auditorium in North Carolina. Now the question though, who actually bears the heat and pressure of forging psychological operation? I tell you what, it's not going to be the military planners back in the States. It's going to be the African civilian, local leaders, and fragile communities. One military doctrine treats complex human ecosystem like raw iron to be shaped from afar. Don't be surprised. It doesn't build trust. All it does is generate friction. I want to ask you guys watching right now, especially if you are tuning in from the continent or the diaspora, do you think foreign military operations ever build genuine trust? Or do they always feel like manipulation? Drop your take in the comment below. Now, I want you guys to take a look at the command team handing over the colors. You got Lieutenant Colonel Schultz, you got Captain Coach, and you got First Sergeant Liberal. You guys see something? The whole command structure, their families. Did you notice something? There isn't a single African or Black American face in the command structure of this brand new African-focused unit. Crazy, isn't it? Creating something that is directly for Africans that will sort of influence and better Africa or support Africans. And you can't even get one African or one Black American in your command structure, which of course you know is just a reflection of what this Trump government is. Consistent attack on high-ranking African-American general by the Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. And yeah, it's the operational flaw I want you guys to be aware of, especially for my military veterans and my active duty brothers and sisters, and for the DOD or Department of War. Get this, you are creating a unit dedicated to the cultural, linguistic, and political nuances of Africa to influence and persuade its people. Yet the leadership team standing at the front shows zero cultural, racial, or lived ties to the continents. What does it reveal? Well, we know that this isn't an organic, equal partnership. It is a top-down manipulation managed through a purely tactical Western lens. It's even more interesting. See, right here, you can see that Delta Company nickname is the Drogo Company, derived its name from the Drogo bird, a small yet fearless hunter native to Africa. This bird is notorious for mimicking other animals called to scare predators and take their food. They put this in their official government release. The name a unit focused on Africa after a bird that imitates calls to trick locals and steal their resources. This is going to backfire. Let me tell you why this is going to backfire and fails. The U.S. Special Operations Command may says their stated goal is to counter Russian and Chinese influence. How does it help? Because former competitor tells West African the West is here to manipulate you and exploit your resources. Then the army launches PSYOP units and say, yeah, we'll name ourselves after the bird that tricks you to take your food. You couldn't make this up, and you couldn't hand adversary networks a better propaganda gift, even if you tried. They pick something that is a trickster, that is deceitful, and they name their unit operating Africa after it. The Russian and Chinese don't even have to try. The psychological warfare is already working against the unit. Be honest. 1 year that the U.S. military named an Africa-focused unit after a bird known for tricking locals to take their food, is that just extreme arrogance or complete tone deafness? Let me know what you think in the comments. I think it's just complete tone deafness. This is when you have people that lacks critical thinking, people that lack cultural nuances. They're reading the books, but they never walk those grounds, and they don't experience life like African do. It makes sense in somebody's head. For the unit, it makes sense, but for the stated goals and intent, complete failure. Let's look at some historical parallel, because I want to show you guys the psychological evidence that this unit is failing already. It just got activated and it's already failed its stated intent, which is to persuade. Let's try this. You guys notice where this unit was activated, right? Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Not Accra, not Nairobi, not Dakar, not in partnership with a foreign African military. Western military figures standing in North Carolina over a map of Africa, deciding how to manage an entire continent's information sphere. Again, remember when I told you guys? It is given very much 1884 Berlin Conference. You guys know in 1884, European powers carved up Africa within an African Indian room. And in 2026, Western planners are carving up Africa's information space the exact same way. Don't take my word for it. I will link this article in the description so you can read it for yourself and do a deeper dive if you must. So, what evidence do I have on the ground? Look at what's actually happening across the Sahel and West Africa right now. We have mass expulsion of Western troops. Nations like Niger demand a full withdrawal of foreign forces. That includes the U.S., including Air Base 201, which it was a U.S. base where we had our drone operation, rejecting foreign military presence in favor of total sovereignty. And they did this while they are at war. At war. Now we have the alliance of Sahel states, AES, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Nigeria. They formed their own defense bloc, explicitly rejecting foreign dictation and foreign-led proxy battles. Now, of course, we have anti-Western narrative. Local population are actively rejecting foreign intervention because they feel treated as subject to be managed rather than equals. And not to mention, prolonged war. Since our intervention on the global war on terrorism in 2000, what war have we stopped? What tangible win debut do we have in Africa, in the Middle East? The Taliban are back in power. The Iran proxy in Iraq are still in power. The Syrian is now ran by a well-known terrorist. We replace one for another. We destroy Libya. Africans in the diaspora like myself, an African on the continent, we all see one thing. The great powers competition between the U.S., China, and Russia is playing right now on the ground in Africa for resource, which means they're not talking about African sovereignty. They're talking about which one of those three countries will have total control over the vast resources, especially the natural resources, the minerals that actually runs our booming AI and renewable energy surge, lithium, uranium, cobalt. That's what they're looking at right now. And none of those countries are actually asking Africa much, especially not the West. But I tell you guys right now, the country between those three great powers, because of course, surprise, they're all nuclear power, because that's how power is formed now, through nuclearization and nuclear proliferation. It's the only way Africa has true sovereignty. The countries between the three great powers that will have true dominance on the world stage when it comes to access to Africa resources is the one that will be true partner. We don't want allies. We don't want alliances unless it's in Africa. True partners will come when the interest of the African people is put first. Most importantly, by their own leaders, and secondly, by their foreign partners. Before we wrap up with this entire strategy, that will backfire and fail. If you value real own filter analysis on African politics that cuts through Western media spin, hit that subscribe button, turn on your notification. We are building a community here on Money and Power Africa that tells the truth about who really holds the leverage on the continent. Join us. Here's your key takeaway. The Drongo Company, it won't counter Russian or Chinese influence. It will reinforce the exact neo-colonial narrative foreign adversary use against the U.S. It won't defeat violent extremists. It gives people like Al-Shabaab and JNIN proof to recruit. Tell the locals the West is using mind games to control your country and your people. It won't build regional stability. Genuine stability requires economic investment, transparent diplomacy, and respect for sovereignty, not a military information band-aid launched from North Carolina. When you treat foreign African nations as an information ecosystem to be manipulated, you don't win hearts and minds. You alienate the very partners you claim you are trying to protect. What do you guys think is the path forward for African nations facing this new wave of global information warfare? Do African states need to ban foreign military media operation entirely? I want you guys to sign off in the comment. I'm reading and replying to as many as I can. I am Weddle. This is Money and Power Africa, and I will see you guys in the next video.